From advertising to software as a service to data.
Across all of our programs and clients, we've seen a 55 to 65% open rate.
Getting brands authentically integrated into content performs better than TV advertising.
Typical lifespan of an article is about 24 to 36 hours.
If we're reaching out to the right person with the right message and a clear call to action, then it's just a matter of timing.
Welcome to the Martech Podcast, and I Hear Everything production. In this podcast, you'll hear the stories of world-class marketers that use technology to drive business results and achieve career success. We'll unearth the real-world experiences of some of the brightest minds in the marketing and technology space so you can learn the tools, tips, and tricks they've learned along the way. Now here's the host of the Martech Podcast, Benjamin Shapiro.
Welcome to the Martech Podcast. I'm your host, Benjamin Shapiro, and today we're going to do a special generative AI episode of the Martech Podcast. Joining us is our Gen AI correspondent, Jennifer Jones-Mitchell, who is the founder and creator coach at Human Driven AI, which offers a range of resources and services to help marketers integrate generative AI into their work, including a knowledge hub, workshops, and AI transformation strategies. And in addition to providing us with our guest today, Human Driven AI is also a sponsor of the Martech Podcast. So far this week, Jennifer and I have talked about the AI news, including OpenAI's Developer Day announcements and President Biden's executive order. And yesterday we talked about what's happening with artificial intelligence as it relates to design. Today we're going to wrap up our conversation talking about how marketing agencies should be using AI. All right, here's the last part of my conversation with Jennifer Jones-Mitchell, the founder and creator coach at Human Driven AI. Jennifer, welcome back to the Martech Podcast.
Thank you so much.
Excited to have you back on the show and wrap up our conversation. Always good to sit down with one of our sponsors. And I appreciate your perspective here. There's so much moving in artificial intelligence. We talked about the news. We talked about some new design tools that have been launched. And generally, I've been thinking about the use of AI for in-house marketers, for either creators like myself or brand owners and managers that are thinking about how to create content at scale for their specific brand or imagery as well. But in reality, the world's more complicated than that. There's this whole next level of using artificial intelligence when you're managing multiple brands. What's the difference between how agencies are using AI and how in-house marketers are using it?
Well, one of my favorite things to do and to show people how to do when you are an agency is to create different personas within the AI. You can teach it to write from the perspective of your client. And let's say you're a PR professional. You can teach it to write in the style of one subject matter expert and ask it to write for a specific media outlet. Then once your client likes that article, approves it, you can then ask the AI to take that same article, but now write it for a different media outlet. You can instantly create multiple versions of the same kind of topic that's tailored to a specific reporter. And that is going to save so much time for so many public relations professionals who are writing bylined articles. But you can also ask the AI, it's called role playing. So you can tell the AI, you are a journalist who covers outdoor sporting products. What do you want to see in a press release or a media pitch? Or you can even test your media pitch with that reporter and improve upon it.
So here's my concern with agencies using artificial intelligence to scale their ability to serve individual brands in their tone, is they're using the artificial intelligence to essentially role play and say, here's what I know about the brand. Give me urban focused creative for Sprite. And the problem is it's not creative. It's not authentic. It's what ChatGPT thinks is urban, which probably isn't actually urban. So how do you make sure that you are using tools that are helping you be authentic and understand if you're missing the boat just using sort of the generic GPT language?
Well, let me tell you, there is a new GPT called Latimer. It was named after Lewis Latimer, an African-American inventor. They're calling this the Black GPT. And that's because it was trained on all of the content from the HBCUs, the historically Black colleges and universities. Well, here's what blows my mind. Obviously, I am a white woman. So anything that I write for people of color is always going to be kind of at an arm's length distance. My only understanding of the Black experience comes from my friends or books or music or movies. It's always going to be kind of one step removed. But with Latimer, it was trained on all of the content from the HBCUs. It was trained on the Black experience, Black literature, political views, etc. So anything Latimer writes for people of color is actually going to be more authentic than anything I could write. And that blows my mind. The AI could actually be more authentic than a human, simply based on what it was trained on.
I guess this goes back to our conversation 2 days ago where we talked about OpenAI's announcements of GPTs. I still think it's a terrible name. I think it should have been agents. But there are all sorts of verticalized GPT chat experiences. And I think that the differentiation between these are going to be the data sets that train a GPT. Well, you can have BPT, JPT, Jewish Chat GPT. But moral of the story here is we can create all these verticalized GPTs, but how do you feed them the data set that is going to be relevant to them? Can you just go into the GPT creator and say, create a GPT that only looks at data from lesbian authors or people from Africa, whatever it is? Is this technology already something that's been sunset?
No, I think this is brand new. And it's funny because before the OpenAI Dev Day, I was telling anybody who would listen that I think the future is going to be custom GPTs, audience-focused GPTs. And of course, now with the Dev Day announcement, I'm sure we're going to see this. But how you create that's why I'm a little concerned with anybody being able to create a GPT. What is the oversight to make sure that the data it was trained on is accurate and dealing with that whole bias issue? So that's where you're going to need data scientists to make sure that they review the data and clean the data. And OpenAI says that on the back end that they are going to be helping people do that with their GPTs that they create. But I do say, even with all these advancements, I always tell people AI should create your first draft, not your last draft. Even if you're using, say, Latimer to create content for people of color, I would still want to make sure that a human being looks at it, proofs it, improves it. But I do think this is an incredible future we're looking at, where AI will be trained to help us marketers connect in a more authentic way to specific audiences. And just the fact that AI can be more authentic than a human here, it's mind-blowing to me.
So we talked about how agencies can use role playing to help them put themselves in the mindset and basically upload all they know about a client and help create more content, more work for them. And then creating creative specific for audience using either GPTs or artificial intelligence tools, GPTs, that are audience specific. See, this is why GPT is a bad name, because it's a GPT or a GPT. They really have to change it. When you think about what an agency business is, where you're basically doing the work for multiple clients, are there ways that you can use artificial intelligence to stay on top of clients, do a better job with managing the demanded workload, basically be able to create more work?
One of the best things to do, especially if you need to create content on behalf of multiple different brands, is you can teach and train, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or any of these tools, you can teach it not only to replicate your client's brand voice, but you can also teach it specific tasks so that it can repeat tasks for you easily. I do a lot of message comparison to help my clients use AI to identify differentiators that they have from their competition. So once you've trained the AI on how to do that, how to analyze the brand's message, the competitor's message, and then find those differentiators that you can then use, you can tell it to name that process message differentiators. And from now on, all I have to do is upload the messaging and say, run a message differentiator on this. So you can scale common actions that you take simply by teaching the AI what those actions are and naming them. You can organize all of your client personalities and brand voices just by naming them. So I can go into AI and say, write this in my voice, or I can say, write this in CX's voice. And I like to use initials for my clients because I'm a little nervous about putting client names and company names into the AI. So I always use initials for them, but it remembers CX's writing style. And I can instantly give it bullets then, and it will remember that writing style and replicate it. Or I can give it bullets and it will remember a process that I have trained it on. It just is incredible how you can scale all of the tasks, common tasks that you have as a marketer using AI once you teach it what you want it to do.
I guess the last question I have for you is when you're doing this amount of work at scale because you're an agency and you're writing in the tone of each agency and you're using a data set, a GPT that is specifically writing for your target audience, how do you know if that resonates? There's so much of I'm not writing the content and not necessarily getting the feedback from the customers. How do you figure out if you think your copywriting or what the artificial intelligence is producing actually makes sense for your audience?
Well, I've actually created client personas in my AI. All you need to do is give it kind of basic profile information, the personality traits of your client. What is their general demeanor? Are they serious, laid back? Are they skeptical and unimpressed or enthusiastic? What is it that they value? Again, if you're a PR professional, maybe your client values brand awareness. Maybe they value top-tier media coverage. Whatever it is that you know that they value, give them the background. What is their job title? What is their education? Because the AI will be able to literally create a persona of your client. And then I test my ideas, whether it's testing writing, a campaign idea, and I ask the persona to tell me what that client would think about a specific strategy. And I've done this before, and it is right on. I put together a strategy. I tested it with that client's persona. It said that the things that the client would like about it, but that the client may have concerns around budget. And the media strategy, I wanted to give an exclusive to a top tier outlet and then roll the story out to other media. And the AI said, as this persona, this person may be concerned about just giving the exclusive to that one person. When I then presented my strategy to that client, those were two of the concerns that she brought up. And I was prepared to address them because the AI had prepped me, because I tested my idea on the persona before I presented it to the client. And I encourage everybody to do this. It's incredible the feedback that you will get, not just on what would they like, what would they not like, but it will tell you when you present it, address this or use these words because that's what this client will want to hear. It's incredibly powerful as just a way to test your ideas.
It used to be dog fooding. Then people got tired of saying we eat our own dog food, so they started saying we drink our own champagne. Now you're going to create content with artificial intelligence, and you're going to have artificial intelligence tell you whether the artificial intelligence you used likes the artificial intelligence you created. I don't know if that's champagne or dog food, but the AI is eating its own whatever. And that wraps up this episode of the Martech Podcast. Thanks for listening to my conversation with Jennifer Jones Mitchell, the founder and creator coach at Human Driven AI. If you'd like to hear more from Jennifer, you can find a link to her LinkedIn profile in our show notes. You can contact her on Twitter. Her handle is JonesyJen. That's JonesyJen. Or you could visit her company's website, which is humandrivenai.com. Just one more link in our show notes I'd like to tell you about. If you didn't have a chance to take notes while you were listening to this podcast, head over to martechpod.com, where we have summaries of all of our episodes and contact information for our guests. You can also subscribe to our weekly newsletter, and you can even apply to be the next guest speaker on the Martech Podcast. Of course, you can always reach out on social media. Our handle is MartechPod, MartechPod, on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or you can contact me directly on LinkedIn. My handle is Ben J. Shap, BenJShap. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you want a daily stream of marketing and technology knowledge in your podcast feed, we're going to publish an episode every day this year. So hit the subscribe button in your podcast app, and we'll be back in your feed tomorrow morning. All right, that's it for today. But until next time, my advice is to just focus on keeping your customers happy.